Hello there. Over the last 2 years, governments have broken promises, broken economies, and next to be broken will be the people. As per usual, please like, subscribe and comment below. And when subscribing, please do press that little bell, but also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. Europe is about to explode, if it isn't doing so already, with the continent being ordered back into their homes and new rules unfolding where that if you don't have the you-know-what, you will be classified as an enemy of the state. Oh great. And I'll make it clear, my issue is with lack of choice in this matter and the requirement to produce papers to the authorities to prove your compliance. I'm trying my very best to not draw parallels between seemingly separate news stories on separate issues. But reading the papers these days is like reading the plot to the ultimate dystopian end-of-days film. In fact, had Hollywood actually made a movie a few years ago encompassing all these current worldwide events, it would have been dismissed as just too extreme and unrealistically outlandish. Just take a step back and look at what's happening across the globe, from Australia and New Zealand through to Canada, China, the USA, and then the EU with Austria, Germany and the Netherlands. From the emerging health crisis to the irregular movement of people, to climate change, to supply chains, to energy supplies like gas, we are seeing almost total global turmoil. And there are the rumblings of war on two major fronts, and the borders of the EU are now turning into a tinderbox. None of this is natural, surely, not on this scale. But there is a scale of pushback by the people, which the mainstream press is not acknowledging, or worse, actively suppressing the news on, almost as if they are comfortable with total government control. And the common global denominator here is the shifting relationship between governments and people, with any remaining trust the people have in their governments now fast eroding. And that lack of trust could well turn into fear, a very unhealthy political situation. And governments have discovered they can control the people. As long as they keep the psychological nudge units on full burn, they can act with impunity. And as to the press, well, they are now willing government megaphones. Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined I would be looking across the world and seeing the identical narrative being peddled by different governments. Many of these governments apparently have vastly different ideologies, from the extreme right to the extreme left and every flavour in between, as well as vastly different legal systems, yet they are seemingly acting as one on the big issues. With one result of the last 2 years being that certain policies across the globe regarding our proximity with one another and things that are placed over your mouth and nose have left us with hesitation when it comes to natural affection, and the love of the many has grown cold. And here I am once again trying to get to grips with facts and form an opinion based on my research and findings, yet when it comes to the most important topics, I am utterly muzzled. All for my own good, of course. Yes, I would love to be able to comment, for example, on what will happen to the younglings in the UK next spring, but I am not allowed to. On Friday I warned that all that's happening elsewhere can also happen in the UK, especially given our political class's silence on this issue of freedom to choose, and recent utterances from a sage expert and some other well-known experts show that things are already gearing up for us to follow the Austrian government example. We already have show your papers laws in Scotland and Wales, and now in Northern Ireland. England will be next, have no doubt. Especially now that we're hearing that Germany is the latest to consider going down the no-choice path. And for those pointing to the ECHR and its recent non-binding resolution on this issue, the legal view seems to be that the concept of proportionality will allow governments to do as they please when overriding individual human rights in this area. Human rights or privileges granted by our betters? Just listen to the polemic and divisive narrative now being pushed and enforced across the board. And you will not argue, you will submit or face the consequences. The route to herd immunity, it seems, is through herd mentality. Now, one driver towards the UK following other countries down this route will be international trade and travel. Do the same or go on the red list will be the instruction. And another will be the fact that England is now the only part of the UK without a produce your papers law, as of yet anyway. But one has to wonder how long that situation will persist. Especially after the Health Secretary Sajid Javid upped the ante today by saying that people should get tested prior to going to crowded and enclosed settings or visiting vulnerable people. This is an increase on previous guidance, but is it also the start of the ratchet? Now, in a very interesting development, it looks like Fortress EU is about to buttress its border defences. But before I get onto that, I just want to say a massive thank you to all my Super Thanks, Patreon and PayPal supporters, as well as those that do buy a mug with my mug on it. Links in the descriptions box below. You really do help me keep this channel going. It's being reported that Brussels is expected to start using 2 new border systems next year. One to authorise travel from third countries into the EU, and another to use face and fingerprint recognition to track people in and back out of the bloc. Tim Reardon, the head of EU Exit at the Port of Dover, told the House of Lords Justice and Home Affairs Committee that it is supposed to be introduced all at once at every point of entry to the Schengen area of the European Union. It will apply in all of these places, at every place where somebody enters the Schengen area of the European Union from outside it. There will be an impact. Well, not everyone maybe. I would guess that certain irregular routes will still remain unmonitored. And it seems that lorry and car drivers will have to vacate their vehicles for these checks, leading to enforced delays at UK ports where the EU has a border presence. This will no doubt have the Ramonas cock a hoop and decrying Brexit again, because we'll be in a queue on the other side of the EU border. But I will point out that so will about 92% of the world's population, including those from the US. So the next time Sleepy Joe visits the EU, he and everyone in his entourage will be checked in and checked back out again. Which will be fortunate for Biden, as without his minder, he might accidentally slip off somewhere and end up bewildered in a strange land. But he might be too busy fighting a defamation lawsuit against a young man named Kyle to have the time to go globetrotting. Unless he does the right thing and apologises now, of course. A US president calling a young man something he isn't, and then telling all and sundry that he's angry and concerned about the decision of 12 good people is not a good look for democracy and justice, and does nothing to calm tensions in the US. And the UK mainstream press reporting on that case has been woeful. In fact, in the main, it's been appalling. Talk about one-sided and agenda-filled. And these weren't inaccuracies, they were lies. Lies designed to make people in the UK think badly of someone who does not deserve it. But thankfully I hear he is lawyered up and ready to take everyone from Sleepy Joe down to the gutter press to the cleaners. Moving on, I see we're going to start the new year in full woke mode. Doctor Who will be on our screens on New Year's Day, so we can begin the new year with a load of woke drivel. I remember a time as a young lad when I used to look forward to the groundbreaking sci-fi series that was Doctor Who. When it first arrived on our screens in glorious black and white, the visual and sound effects were well ahead of their time, and the stories were gripping, with children across the country hiding behind the sofa when the Cybermen and Daleks would make their entrances. But now the scariest thing about Doctor Who is that someone out there still actually watches the programme. Is nothing sacred anymore in our society? Why does everything have to get box-ticked and re-woked to make it palatable for our young snowflakes who get frightened out of their soy latte-drenched minds if a cat looks at them the wrong way? And finally to global heating. With warmer weather being experienced in the Russian Arctic Circle, ship captains decided to sail without a nuclear ice-breaking tug in attendance due to the benign weather reports they got from the Russian Met Office. But the Arctic seas froze up 2 weeks ahead of schedule, leaving many ships now stranded in a frozen sea for many days or even weeks, while they wait for an icebreaker to arrive and save them. Someone somewhere stole all the heat. So, will you be in your cell this Christmas? Please like and comment below.